Hello, everybody, and welcome to the very first episode of LolFish podcast starring myself, Lambo Fish, and
Locale Central.
this is going to be a podcast where we talk about sports news, anything we find interesting going on in the sports world. And I just want to take this opportunity to thank you all for tuning in to our very first episode. And I guess without further ado, let's get started. Our first topic be talking about has to do with NBA free agency, and of course, the big thing with NBA free agency right now is Damian Lillard.
Yeah.
So I guess to kind of give some backstory, recently Damian Lillard has requested to be traded from the Trailblazers, and then he wants to be traded to the Miami Heat. The Trailblazers are open to trading him to other teams because obviously they want to get the best possible package that they can. But of course, this comes with his agent telling other teams that they would be trading for an unhappy player if they do happen to trade for Damian Lillard. So, I mean, we can kind of talk about what kind of led up to Damian Lillard being unhappy with the Trailblazers. So, do you want to start with that?
His career on the Trailblazers, it for a while it was pretty good. They'd win like 50 games here, at least 40 every year. And then in 2019, they reached the conference finals but lost. And then the 2 seasons after that, they got outed in the first round and then have not made the playoffs since.
Right, and that kind of comes with them not necessarily giving him much help besides himself. And they traded away some pieces too, like C.J. McCollum.
Yeah.
Yeah, so and then in this year's draft, as a lot of you probably already know, they went ahead and drafted Scoot Henderson, and um, that kind of, I guess, maybe upset Damian Lillard a little bit, which ultimately led to his request to be traded. And as we mentioned, his desired destination is the Miami Heat. Now, it's kind of taken a while, right? But what do the Heat have to offer? Because it doesn't seem like they have much to offer the Blazers.
Yeah, all they can really offer besides like a bunch of draft picks would be Tyler Hero or Duncan Robinson, and the Trailblazers have too many guards already. They don't need Hero on their team.
Yeah, I would agree. I just don't think that a package including Hero and Robinson and maybe picks. I'm not sure. Like the Miami Heat, like their draft pick situation, I don't think it's very good. Um, but I think if a trade would happen to come up with Lillard going to the Heat, I think would have to include a third team. What do you
Yeah,
think?
I agree on that. I The Trailblazers need more than just that, and some other team would have to give something up.
Because the Blazers understandably are looking to get like all-star talent, and they want young talent, and they want um, you know they want something that's equal. I guess not equal to Damian Lillard, but a good return. They don't want to just give him away for nothing.
If a third team does, come into the trade, what's their incentive on actually doing it? Like,
I
what are
mean,
they really getting out of it? Besides maybe a bum team kind of takes money or something or gives picks up.
or yeah, or picks, or I don't know, a player. Um, I had seen um, some possible like three-team trades that included. I think it was. I saw one with like the 76ers. I saw one with I think the Nets, and I don't know, just maybe like that third team maybe has a player they that has a bad contract for the team. They just want to kind of get that contract off the books, and maybe one of the other teams will take that contract, and in turn, they get picks or a different player, that costs less money. So it would have to be kind of like something like that, in my opinion, for a third team to be involved.
Yeah, I agree.
Look at the situation too with Damian Lillard's, contract situation. It's not great, and a lot of teams can't afford to take on his contract. So if a third team would come in, I don't know, Miami would have to unload another player's contract possibly, or they would have to, work something out, or maybe the Blazers would pay for some of his contract. But then if they do that, you're gonna have to throw in, more to get them to do that.
Yeah.
Because, his contract extension is going to be kicking in, and that's a base salary of like $58 million and $63 million. And there's not many teams out there that can afford that. If any, I don't think there is any now with free agency going on. So any trade is going to have to include players that have, high salaries, and they're going to have to be traded in order for that to, kind of work out, and for a team to take on Damian Lillard's contract.
What do you think the chances are that he doesn't get traded at all?
I think it's honestly a pretty good possibility. Um, I can see him not being traded. Maybe he sits out. I don't know. I feel like he would play even if he doesn't get traded. But I just don't know if he's going to be traded to the Heat. I just don't think that. I don't even know. Like, it would have to take a third team. It would have to, just a lot of puzzle pieces would have to fall into place for that to happen. But I can definitely see him not being traded at this point, to be honest. It's been kind of a couple of days since I've heard anything about Lillard or a trade. So it's kind of, we're kind of at the stalemate, I think, right now. So I don't know. I guess we'll just have to see. What do you think?
I can see him staying on the Blazers, because if they don't trade him, they just keep him, and he's like, oh, I'll just sit out the whole contract or whatever, the rest of it, or until he does get traded. What team would want him? Because who says if he's unhappy with the team he gets traded to, he doesn't eventually do that to them?
Yeah. Yeah, I understand it. But, again, if he does sit out, he's sitting out from a lot of money.
Yeah.
But, yeah, it'll be interesting to see if he does get traded, and where to. And if it's not Miami, is he going to play, or is he going to sit out? So it'll be definitely interesting.
Because I can.
But in terms of it, go ahead.
I can see him. Because it's a 2-year extension or whatever that he got. I can see him playing the rest of that, and then just leaving in free agency, and then signing a cheaper deal somewhere else. Maybe in 2 years he will go to the Heat, but I don't think he'll be traded there.
Yeah, it's definitely a possibility. Definitely something that could happen. But in terms of other free agency news, let's talk about kind of some of our favorite signings that have happened so far. There are obviously still a lot of players who haven't been signed, but there have been a lot of players who have signed. So, in your opinion, what is a couple of your favorite signings that you've seen?
I like the Russell Westbrook signing. It's a cheap deal for a player that gives his all every single game. You never have to worry about lack of effort with him, because he's always, like, there were games when he was on the Lakers everyone else looked like they gave up, but he'd keep them in the game a little bit, you know. I
Right.
think he's a
Yeah. No.
good player.
When I did see that he did sign, um, I was honestly surprised that he signed for as cheap as he did. Like he signed for like a 2 year, $7.8 million deal, and yeah, when my first reaction when I saw that was, wow, that's pretty cheap. He took a very big discount.
Yeah. I think a lot of it has to do with the unfair notion that kind of started last year that, you know, he's a big reason why teams lose games and whatnot, but I think he was one of the best players on the Lakers and Clippers last year.
Right, right. Um, I mean, obviously I'm a Milwaukee Bucks fan. So in my opinion, I liked the Bucks signings. Um, for them bringing back their core pieces in Middleton and Lopez. Um, they signed a couple of guys for veteran minimum in Jay Crowder and Robin Lopez, bringing him back, and Malik Beasley, who I thought was a good signing. Um, so it'd be interesting to see how they kind of shape out their final roster spots. But I did like the Bucks signings and them being able to bring everyone back. That being said, I also liked Lakers signings. I'm not a Laker fan, but I liked what they did in free agency. They brought a lot of guys back on good contracts. Um, I just feel like they had a very good, you know, free agency. I mean, they just brought back, again, a lot of their important pieces. Um, like D'Angelo Russell. Um, they signed, Jackson Hayes, Cam Reddish, Torian Prince, and Gabe Vincent, Rui Hachimura. They signed a lot of young people. They brought back Austin Reeves. So they kept a lot of their same people. They went out and got people who I think could help them. A lot of it is going to be, on the shoulders of, if Anthony Davis can stay healthy. And, LeBron is LeBron. But, sure, they lost a couple people, but they were able to bring in nice, solid young pieces that I think will ultimately help them when it comes down to later on in the season. What about for you? Were there any other signings that you liked?
I really like the Spurs signings. I think they're gonna be a lot better this year, especially signing Victor Wembanyama to a multi-year contract. That really helps out. And then a bunch of trades that they had, like C.D. Osman, Lamar Stevens. They'll be pretty good to have on the bench and fill out
Yeah,
some
and
depth.
even trading for Cameron Payne, who I think is a nice, solid player and can definitely help out that Spurs team.
Because last year the Spurs pretty much just had Keldon Johnson. He was their best player, pretty much their entire offense. But they're starting to get a lot of offensive pieces that can help out. They have a bench now, so I could see them being a playoff contender. A lower seed for now until they start to pick up more pieces and whatnot later on.
And speaking of picking up pieces, you like the Jakob Poeltl signing with the Raptors, but we all know about mid-season, around the trade deadline, that he'll be back with the Spurs.
I wish. Because
Um,
Jakob Poeltl is probably, in my opinion, like a top 10 center in the league. Close to that 10-15. He's a good player.
Now, you also mentioned that you liked the Kyrie Irving signing. So do you want to talk a little bit more about that?
We all know the Mavericks tanked at the very end, benching their starting players in like their last couple games. And the NBA was looking into that, but I think they really need another player out there with Luka, because Kyrie and Luka, they only had him for about half a season, so you don't really know how good they are together until, you know, maybe mid-season this coming season, and see where it goes from there, and see if they need to trade for more people, maybe a third player.
Yeah, and Christian Wood is still out there. So if they don't sign him, I think that they'll need to, bring in a big guy. But yeah, I like what you mentioned with how, they need somebody out there with Luka. Um, Kyrie can be that guy. Let's see, what they can do with a full season together. But yeah, I think I agree with you with how they need to add more. Like there's still a couple pieces that they need to add. Um, but I mean, again, we'll see. There are a lot of a lot of good names out there in free agency that people can you know still sign. So the Mavericks could definitely go out there and sign a couple of them. Um, I mean, the biggest one that I think comes to mind is Christian Wood, but I don't know if he's going to be going back um, to the Mavs. But we'll see.
Big problem with that Mavericks team is that Luka has the ball in his hands too much.
I mean, to be fair though, it was kind of just him.
Well, yeah, but you know they should have went out and got more people to help him. Because if he doesn't score, they lose. It's like a guaranteed loss. So
Yeah,
that's why
and
think it's good they have Kyrie.
yeah, I was just gonna say Kyrie will help with that. Um, but yeah, I do think that they need to maybe if not in free agency, maybe at the trade deadline, um, bring somebody else in, bring in that third guy that could help. Um, are they a playoff team? I think they can be like on one of the lower seeds, but I still think that they need that third player if they really want to contend. Because I think that there's a lot of other teams in the West that are better than them, but maybe if they bring in that third player and then maybe bring in a couple other guys for the bench, they have depth that they could contend. But with that, talked about some of our favorite signings. So now let's talk about some of our least favorite signings.
One signing that I think is a bad one is the Dillon Brooks contract. I don't think he's all that great. He's pretty much, he might be good at defense, but he's just has too many fouls and whatnot. He you could call him a dirty player too if you want. I don't like him. I don't think he's worth the amount that they paid him. The Rockets.
Do I think they overpaid him? Yes. Like an average salary of $21.5 million. I think as much as I mean, he, like you mentioned, he kind of brings that, defensive, aspect to a team. I personally like those kind of players. Um, but would I have given him that kind of money? No. But the Rockets had a lot of money to sign players, and they had missed out. One of their big targets at the time was Lopez, um, and he re-signed with the Bucks. So they had money to give players, and they did with going out and signing Dillon Brooks. I'll be interested to see how he fits in Houston. Um, but personally, I agree with you. I don't really like that kind of contract for him. I mean, another big contract that the Rockets gave out was for Van Vliet, and I mean they gave him a lot of money, which I mean, good for Van Vliet. He's a really good player, but an average of $42.8 million over 3 years. I feel like that's kind of much.
Yeah, I mean, I like Van Vliet as a player. Um, you could say he deserves that contract more than other guys because he has been an all-star before in the past. But
Yeah.
I I would have preferred if he stayed with the Raptors. I think the Raptors could have done a lot better if they kept some of their guys because
Oh yeah, for sure,
the
for sure.
past few years they've been relatively the same team, um, but they just didn't win close games last year, the games that they needed to win.
And getting rid of pieces like a Van Vliet won't help that. Um, I mean, we'll see. Maybe the Raptors end up as a team that sells by the trade deadline. Gets rid of some of their players, and maybe it's time for them to rebuild. I mean, who knows? They let a player like Van Vliet go. And like you kind of mentioned, I agree that they've kind of been the same team for the past couple of years, and losing Van Vliet is gonna, it's not gonna help them most certainly. So we'll have to monitor them and see where they're at near or around the trade deadline, and maybe they become sellers, and get rid of like a Pascal Siakam.
They did pick up Gary Trent Jr.'s $18.5 million option. Maybe they end up shipping him somewhere at the deadline as a
Or maybe
rental
your
player.
Jakob Poeltl will go back to the Spurs. And then another one, that comes to mind too is, Jeremy Grant. Um, that one's an interesting one. I feel like maybe it was kind of an attempt to, maybe change Damian Lillard's mind on coming back to the Trailblazers. They gave him a lot of money too, like an average of $32 million, over 5 years.
Yeah, I mean, maybe Dame wanted Jeremy Grant to get paid for when he leaves and whatnot. Give him like one last favor.
Yeah, I don't know. That one's an interesting one because I know when Lillard had, when the news came out that Lillard had requested a trade, the Blazers had come out and said that that decision wasn't going to impact the Jeremy Grant signing, which I feel like if they would have kind of went back on that, I feel like it would have been kind of like a bad move on the Blazers' part. Um, but yeah, I don't know. That's an interesting one. For a team that might lose Damian Lillard and might be in a rebuild, having that kind of contract on their books, in my opinion, doesn't really help them.
Let's say they get rid of Jeremy Grant, right? To get another player with the money, and Dame doesn't like that and wants to leave anyways. Even in an attempt to keep him there, getting rid of Jeremy Grant could have been a bad thing. I don't know. We'll just have to see how it plays out.
Yeah, yeah, I can definitely see that. I mean, but again, who knows when Dame made it known that he wanted out. Like was it after Grant signed, or was it before Grant signed? We just don't know right now, and maybe more details will come out in the future. But I don't know. That like you said, we're just gonna have to wait and see. What they do with him. And yeah, speaking of your Spurs, as we've mentioned a couple times, let's talk about the Summer League and the much anticipated debut of Victor Wembanyama. I will give you the floor on that one.
Offensively, in the first game versus the Hornets, Victor Wembanyama wasn't that good. He scored 9 points, went 1 for 6 on three, shot 2 of 13, but everything else he was pretty much amazing at. His rebounding skills, 8 rebounds. He had 5 blocks, 3 assists. He was great at passing and facilitating the ball, but he his offense wasn't that good. It, he missed shots. He just started chucking up threes, kind of probably just to test the waters. We don't know if they told him to keep doing that or whatnot. To try to.
I mean, yeah, he did mention in a post game interview that he really didn't know what he was doing out there on that first game.
Yeah, it's kind of just feeling out the game because where he came from in the French Euro League, they're more defensive orientated and physical, like how the NBA used to be back in the day. You could actually touch guys then, but it's just a learning experience, really, for him. But
Right, and we did see him settle down in his second game.
yeah, he shot pretty good, 9 for 14, 2 for 4 on threes, scored 27 points, 12 rebounds, and 3 blocks. He bounced back in a really big way against the Trailblazers, but I think he'll be really good this year, and especially number one in Rookie of the Year. I think right now, either him or maybe Chet, but I think he really stepped up in a big way in his second game, and yeah.
Yeah, and after that, the Spurs did shut him down for the rest of the summer league, because they had seen enough. They had seen what they had wanted to see from him, and they were satisfied with what they saw. So they ended up shutting him down because as we've seen, injuries happen, and there were injuries to Scoot Henderson and Amen Thompson. So obviously, the Spurs don't want him to get hurt. Because he is their star, he is their face of the franchise now. So, and that's going to sell them tickets and make them money, if anything. If not, get them to the playoffs. But they don't want him to get hurt. That's understandable, completely understandable. And as like I mentioned, we saw some of these high draft picks, go down with injuries already.
Yeah, you just have to look back at Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons on the 76ers. They got injured and took them a couple seasons to actually play. Joel Embiid, didn't play until his third actual season or so.
And too, and then it's all good for Wembanyama's development. He played a couple games. I'm sure at the start of the season they'll kind of ease him into it, not push him too hard. But one thing that I think will help with his development is the Spurs signing Greg Popovich to a 5-year contract extension. You want to touch on that?
Yeah. That's probably the best move they made in the whole off season, because Greg Popovich is. You could make the claim he's the greatest coach in basketball history, really. We know what Pop has done in the past, and even on the teams that weren't so good, he got them into the play-in game every time except this coming year, because we wanted to get Wembanyama, and I think he's no funny business. He's straight to the point, and I don't think I think Wemby went to the team that will help him the most with his development. They're strictly basketball and, you know, doing it the right way. They're not about all the extracurriculars.
Right, and we've seen it before in the past too. With Tim Duncan and what's the other one? I'm blanking.
The Admiral David Robinson.
Yeah, that's his name. So we've seen it before in the past too, and that kind of the track record, with these kind of players in the Spurs. So, will Wembanyama end up like one of them? We'll have to see, in 15, 20 years down the road. But, as you mentioned, I think the Spurs are a good fit for him. Having Popovich there for at least a couple more years, I think will really help Wembanyama grow as a player. And yeah, I think that's, like you mentioned, I think that's a good move for the Spurs to bring him back.
I mean, there really wasn't any doubt that they were going to bring him back because, like, he's going to leave when he wants to leave. They could have lost every game last year and they still would have signed him to the 5-year contract extension.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Well, and other news, the NBA in-season tournaments. Do you like it? And in your opinion, could it be improved? And if it could, how should they improve it?
I see it as it's pretty much identical to the WNBA in season, like the Commissioner's Cup, kinda. I know a lot of people want there to be some kind of, incentive for winning the whole thing. I know I saw some things saying whoever wins it should get like an automatic berth into the playoffs. I'm not a fan of that idea, but I see it as more of they're trying to make basketball more mainstream, you could say, because I know soccer has all those in-season tournaments like, Europa or Champions League, but I don't know. What do you think?
I don't know. I'm kind of on the fence about it. It kind of gives some of those teams that are, don't have the best record. It's their championship. It's their chance to, play for, a championship because, they're not going to make the playoffs. So it's kind of like their, how like a bad team will play like the Kansas City Chiefs, right? That's their Super Bowl. So for a lot of these teams, this is their, championship. This is their championship opportunity for that year. So I think in that sense, it could be good. I've also heard that some people think that maybe that there should be some kind of incentive, like an automatic playoff bid where the winner of the tournament automatically becomes the 6th seed. Or if they finish better, obviously that they get that spot, but at least a 6th seed. I don't know. I don't hate that idea. I don't like that idea. I'm kind of on the fence about that too. Like I feel like it would make teams try harder because I feel like right now, the teams that are like the Bucks, the Celtics, the Sixers, the Suns, the Nuggets. I feel like for teams like that, they're not really going to be caring about that, So I feel like maybe it would bring a little bit more incentive, but the whole idea, I don't know. I'm just kind of on the fence about it.
Yeah, I know the teams that make the quarterfinals get $50,000 each, and semifinalists get 100,000, and the actual champions get 500,000, and second place get 200,000. So it could very well just be a way to, get players that don't make that much money in the league a chance to get more money. So it's a good thing in that way as well.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I feel like in that, if you look at it that way, I feel like for the players like you had mentioned that maybe are maybe rookies or players on a two-way contract that don't make a lot of money. That can be very helpful for them. Um, I don't know. I'm just kind of on the fence about it. Maybe my opinion will change on it after seeing it in action. Um, but yeah, I mean, and another rule too this year that they're implementing is the flopping rule. In my opinion, I kind of like it. I'm not big on the whole flopping thing. Um, you get it was mentioned how like the refs don't have to call it right away. They can wait for a stop or a stop in action, stop and play to call it. Um, will it completely cut out flopping? No. But I think that it will cut it down a little bit. So what are your opinions on that?
I think a way the flopping rule can be improved, because right now it's correct me if I'm wrong, it's just a technical, but you can't get ejected for it, so they get one free throw if you're caught flopping or whatever. I think if they update it in the future, if you really want to cut down on it, one way could be a technical shot and then ball. Give the team the ball so that it'll, make guys not want to flop as much. But I think this coming year, guys are just going to try to get better at flopping, because it's kind of it's a case by case basis, really. Does the ref really think it's flopping, And what if calls that are actually fouls get called as flops, at the end of a game or something? I don't know. I think it's a step in the right direction to stop flopping, though.
Yeah, I definitely think it's a step in the right direction, and I feel um, that after this coming season, I feel like it definitely will be adjusted. I think it needs to be adjusted in some ways. Like you mentioned, maybe free throw and ball, or I don't know, make it more. What's the word I'm looking for? Make it like more punishable, I guess. If a player does it, if they, like you said, if they really, 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 really want to cut out and get rid of flopping, I feel like it needs to be more harsher of a foul. Um, but it's kind of a test run this year. I do think it will be adjusted after this year, but I do agree that I feel like it is a step in the right direction. Well, I think we had enough talk about NBA, so let's switch to the MLB for a little bit. It was just recently the All-Star weekend for the MLB, um, where we saw the National League beat the American League 3-2 in their first All-Star game win since 2012. So, do you have any thoughts on the All-Star game itself?
The All-Star game wasn't really all that exciting. It was more or less you could call it a pitcher's duel in the All-Star game if you want. It was low scoring, but a surprise guy on the National League hit the go-ahead home run, Elias Diaz, and ended up winning the All-Star Game MVP. So good for him.
Yeah, like you mentioned, good for him. He did, hit the eighth inning home run. Uh, that ultimately, decided the game for the National League. Um, but along with the All Star game comes the festivities of the Home Run Derby. So, what did you think of the Home Run Derby?
Um, Julio Rodriguez had a record all time. He beat Vlad Guerrero Jr.'s record of 40 with 41 home runs in the first round, where in the second round he eventually he didn't do much. He used it all up in the first and got eliminated. And um, I guess Luis Robert got hurt in the home run derby. He got hurt in the home run derby with MRI on his right calf, but I guess he's all right now because he sat out the All Star game. But you know, Vlad Guerrero Jr. ended up winning it. Um, I'm happy Pete Alonso didn't win it because when you were watching it after he lost, he goes up to his Met teammates and pretty much looks like he's gonna start crying. I thought that was I thought that was pretty funny because it's just a home run derby. I know he won two of them already, but you know it's for fun. It's not like you gotta get all emotional about it. I don't know.
Yeah, obviously, congratulations to Vladdy, who ended up, like you had mentioned, walking away with the win. And yeah, the record-breaking performance by Julio Rodriguez, of course, in Seattle where he plays. Um,
Shout
I thought
out
that was
to
very cool.
shout out to Randy Arozarena for almost winning the home run derby. Just came up a few short.
And then Adley Rutschman, going up. Obviously he's a switch hitter, so he switching sides like at the end there, to hit a couple, homers, righty and lefty. So that was cool to see, in my opinion.
Yeah, in that extra time he went like close to like 8 for 11 or somewhere along those lines. Yeah,
Yeah, it was something crazy after he switched.
yeah,
So now, with the All Star weekend, All Star game, home run derby behind us now. Obviously, we're a little bit past the halfway point. But let's talk some winners and losers of the first half. Obviously, the biggest loser that comes to my mind is the New York Mets. Um, you know, they have the highest team payroll in the league, and they are currently, at the time of this, sitting in fourth place in their division, and they are 7 games under 500. So for that big of a payroll, um, for them to be so far down in their in the NL East, I think the first half for them is a big loss.
yeah. They already got rid of Eduardo Escobar in the first half, and if it keeps going as bad as it is, could you see them selling off more guys? A couple more?
I don't see them selling. I don't see them selling. If anything, I don't think. I think they'll make a move or two. If not, I think they'll keep their guys. I don't know if they'll sell anyone, in my opinion. You know, maybe they'll come back for next year, or I don't know. I just don't think that they'll sell. I mean, if they do sell, who would they sell?
I can see them selling like a, couple relief pitchers maybe, or I don't know.
That's true.
guy unload on guys that they don't want their contracts anymore, or, you know, fifth spot in the rotation kind of guy, you know. But I can I I see them you know, staying pat, or maybe getting, you know, some guy for next year, like a better first baseman or not. I don't think you know, Vogelbach is the answer for the Mets.
Yeah, they definitely have a couple guys on their roster who are underperforming um, by a long shot. Um, yeah, I mean that's just crazy. You think a team that has such a big payroll would be good, but as we are seeing with the Mets, unless they have a big second half turnaround, it's not looking too good for them. Some other teams that come to the mind as some, you know, biggest losers of the first half of the season in the National League are the Cardinals, who are currently sitting in last place in the division, and even the Padres, who are another team that have a big, team payroll as they are sitting in fourth place in their division currently. And then you look at some of the teams on the American League side. The Angels, since Trout went down, have been losing a ton of games.
I would even
Um,
call the Mariners is kind of a not exactly losers, but they underperformed, I think, from what everyone thought they would be at this point in the season.
yeah, currently right now they are 500. Um, yeah, I feel like they should be a little bit better than what they are right now. I mean, 500 is not terrible. It's not great. Um, but maybe in the second half they pick it up. Um, I mean, but the AL East, I wouldn't count really any team in that division losers because they're all above 500. The Yankees are in fourth place in their division, but they're 6 games over 500 right now. Um, so it's hard to call that, hard to call them, a big loser. Um, even though they are in fourth currently, but it's just the other teams in the division are, doing good as well.
I mean, just the fact that, you know, the Astros sitting second in their division, they only have one more win than the Yankees and Red Sox. And the fact that the Astros could, you know, possibly miss the playoffs with a majority of the AL East possibly getting in. You know, if a team wants to go on a run and make the playoffs in the American League, they need to start doing it now, I think.
Yeah, and I'm just gonna make the executive decision and say every team in the AL Central are losers, are the biggest losers, because that division is just atrocious right now.
Yeah, every team except the Twins right now have a losing record. Twins are 2 games over 500, but I could definitely see the winner having a losing record. You know,
Yeah, at this point, it's certainly a possibility.
I think
And
the
now,
you go.
go ahead.
Oh well, I think the only team that doesn't have a chance at that division is Kansas City. They're 27-67 at the time of recording this, and you know, every other team, White Sox, Tigers, Guardians, and Twins, I think they all have a chance at winning the division.
Yeah, because in all honesty, any of those teams could go on a win streak. Any of them can go on a run, and then the other teams could lose some games, and then they take over. They're in first place now.
Yeah, the games that are going to matter the most in that division are division games, because let's say the White Sox, you know, sweep the Twins, they're only 4.5 out if it's a 4-game series. You never know.
hmm Now, in your opinion, we talked about a couple of the losers of the first half. What are some teams, in your opinion, that are winners of the first half?
Um, I think in the National League, the Marlins, they're 53-42, second place. They have a chance at making the playoffs for the first time since the COVID year. And I think the Diamondbacks are winners too. Surprisingly, the Giants are doing pretty well as well.
I agree with all those teams. Another one that I would throw in there would be the Reds. At the time of this, they're sitting at 50-44. Um, in second place in that division. They just a couple days ago were in first place, but they did just get swept by the Brewers, so um, they fall to second place. But their first half, I feel, has been pretty decent. With Ellie De La Cruz and what he's been able to do in the majors thus far has been very, very impressive. And I feel that he's going to maybe carry the Reds, maybe to a wild card. Um, I'm a Brewers fan, so I'm hoping the Brewers win the division. Um, but I feel, you know, if the Reds can stay hot, I feel like they might have a chance, definitely making the playoffs this year.
Yeah, for sure. I I think any team in the NL Central really could, even the Cardinals, they're 13 games under 500, but they still are the Cardinals. I think any team there could possibly go on a run and, make the playoffs there. Especially with the Cubs, with the resurgence of Cody Bellinger. He's finally back and having a great season, which is nice to see.
And in terms of the American League, two teams that stick out to me are the Orioles and the Rangers, in which the Orioles are in second place at the time of this recording, and the Rangers are in first place at the time of this recording. So two teams there who past couple seasons have been not great, but they're finally starting to turn it around. The Orioles are finally some of their high draft picks are finally starting to reach the majors, and the Rangers. I know the Rangers this past offseason had a big spending spree, and it's showing with them currently sitting in first place. And the Rays too. The Rays too having one of the lower team payrolls in the league, if not, I'm not sure their team payroll off the top of my head, but I know it's usually always at the bottom of the league. For them sitting currently at 60-36, one of the best records in the league. Right now the only team ahead of them is the Braves. But so for them to be in first place and having such a great year, definitely I would say a first half winner.
For sure.
All right, and then our last subject that we would like to talk about today, DeAndre Hopkins. It has been reported that DeAndre Hopkins is going to be signing with the Tennessee Titans. Do you have any thoughts on this?
We will have to see how well that works, because I see the Titans as kind of a wide receiver retirement home. It kind of started with Randy Moss and Andre Johnson, and more recently Julio Jones. But it really seems like that's kind of where wide receivers go to die, especially with Derrick Henry there.
Yeah, and at the time of this, I'm not sure of the contract details. of the DeAndre Hopkins signing. I'm sure those will be coming out in the next couple days. Um, I'll be interested to see what he signs for. Um, but maybe it's a 1 year deal, and then it's kind of a 1 year, show what he still has left in the tank, and maybe next year, some other teams will be interested in him. I know obviously Hopkins wanted to play for a winner. I wouldn't at this point consider the Titans to be winners. Um, but if you look at the other teams that were interested in Hopkins, I wouldn't really consider any of them winners right now. So, again, I'm not sure his contract, but
It
if it is
a 2 year,
yeah,
26 million.
2 years, okay.
Yeah.
So 13 a year. So he took the money. He took the money. I mean, who knows? Again, maybe after the 2 years, these are just prove it years, prove that he still has it left in the tank, and then he goes to a title contender. Um, After the 2 years, or even after 1 year, and maybe he requests a trade. I don't know, but again, if you look at the other teams, I know the Patriots were interested. I don't see them in playoff contention. But I don't know. I feel like he definitely took the money. But again, if you look at the teams that were interested in him, none of them were really playoff contenders. So at that point, you may as well just take the money.
Yeah, because you could realistically see this as a DeAndre Hopkins maybe these 2 years, get more stats and show, because really he's the only wide receiver kind of there at this point, like big name one, and get stats, show that he's there, and then go to a title contender afterwards.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I was expecting him to go to the Titans, but I don't know what I was really expecting from him. Um, but I mean, yeah, ultimately he did sign with the Titans. I feel like it would definitely be. I mean, how do you know how old DeAndre Hopkins is now?
Um, 31.
Yes. Yeah. So he's still, he's still young. He's still definitely, could definitely have a couple more years, in the league for sure. Um, so like we were talking about, maybe he finishes off these 2 years in Tennessee, um, shows what he still has left in the tank, um, and then goes to a Super Bowl contender afterwards, for less money maybe. Um, but yeah, DeAndre Hopkins, a Tennessee Titan.
Yeah.
Be interesting to see what he does with the rookie quarterback, and as him really, like you had mentioned, the only big named receiver that Tennessee has.
I mean, I think Tennessee is going to go with Ryan Tannehill, I think.
Yeah, I mean, we'll definitely see.
At first, at
Um,
least.
yeah, yeah, I definitely could see that. Tannehill for a couple weeks, and then maybe ultimately make the switch, or even if it's Tannehill the whole year, we'll have to see. But is there anything else that you want to touch on before we wrap up this first episode?
I think we covered everything that we had. I can't really think of anything unless you have something else.
No, I can't really think of anything. So I guess we're gonna wrap up that first episode here. Um, Thank you all for watching. We really appreciate it. We plan on doing this every once in a while. Anytime there's really a lot of sports news to talk about. Um, Again, thank you for watching. Consider clicking that subscribe button. Consider clicking that like button. And, leave a comment. Maybe leave a comment on your favorite, thing that we talked about, or your thoughts on anything that we talked about, or even your thoughts of, how we could improve our podcast going forward. And links to our channels will also be in the description. Again, I'm LolFish, and I am joined by Local Central. So if you guys want to check out any of our personal individual channels, we would very much appreciate that also. And again, thank you guys for watching, and we will see you guys in the next podcast.
Hell yeah.